Man, hearing the news about Gene Hackman passing and his wife too really kind of hit me hard this week. And I bet a lot of you listeners out there, especially if you're a fan, are feeling it too.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a real loss for cinema, you know? His characters just always felt so real, so human.
Yeah, it makes you want to go back and watch all those films again, just to kind of appreciate all the work.
Oh, absolutely. Like you want to just dive right back into his filmography.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And speaking of diving back in, that's kind of what we're doing today. Our source material today is this YouTube video from CBS Mornings.
Okay.
And it's reporting on this news, Hackman and his wife passing away. But it's not just a straight news piece. They spend some time going back and looking at his legacy.
Right, right.
And it's pretty fascinating stuff, Plus, there's this little added layer. The authorities are saying they don't suspect foul play.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
So it adds a little mystery to the whole thing, right?
Yeah, a little bit of a head scratcher there. It makes you wonder what the full story is. But
Yeah.
I think for now, it's really about celebrating his life and career. I mean, 95 years old.
95. That's incredible. Okay, so let's dive into the details here. CBS mentions that he was born Eugene Hackman, and get this, he joined the Marines at 16. Can you imagine?
Wow, 16 years old.
Yeah. This guy who we know from all these like sophisticated, sometimes even scary characters, started out as a young Marine. Talk about a journey, right?
Really is, yeah. And you think of that kind of experience at that age, it's got to instill a certain discipline, right?
All right.
A resilience that you can almost see it in his performances.
Interesting. And the report also mentions that he really struggled at the beginning of his acting career.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But eventually made it to Broadway. Wasn't an overnight success, but it really says something about his persistence, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It really does. And I feel like acting, persistence is key.
Yeah. Now, his big breakout role, we all know, came in 1967 with Bonnie and Clyde.
Right, right.
But here's the interesting thing. He didn't actually play one of the leads. He played the older brother, Buck Barrow.
Oh?
And it really got him noticed.
Huh. It's funny how sometimes it's not always those lead roles that really get to the attention.
I know, right? It's interesting because you wouldn't think of that as a typical, like, leading man kind of role.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how that works.
It is. It is. So then he gets this first Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor for Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
Which really kind of showed everybody, hey, this guy's doing something different, something really special,
Yeah, he wasn't just blending in. He was standing out.
Yeah, CBS even called him a fixture in Hollywood. And when you hear that word fixture, what comes to mind?
Fixture, that to me implies permanence, like consistency, maybe even a reliability.
I see that.
Like he wasn't just a flash in the pan, right? He became part of the fabric of Hollywood.
Yeah, he became part of that landscape, yeah.
And he did that by constantly challenging himself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? By taking all these different roles, never afraid to really disappear into a character, hero, or villain.
He was always willing to transform himself.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you can't talk about iconic Hackman roles without mentioning The French Connection.
Oh, man, classic.
That car chase scene is just legendary.
Oh, yeah.
CBS even called it death-defying, which, come on, how intense must the filming have been for them to say that?
Oh, it was legendary.
Yeah.
And incredibly dangerous. From everything I've read, they were really pushing the limits back then with those car chases.
Yeah, wild stuff. But what really strikes me about Hackman's performance in that film? He won Best Actor for that role. And it could have so easily been just a straight up, action hero kind of thing.
Right.
But he brought so much more to it. You really felt like you were watching Jimmy Popeye Doyle, like the whole person,
Absolutely. It wasn't just car chases and shootouts. There was real depth there.
Yeah, totally. But okay, shifting gears for a second. Let's talk about a totally different kind of iconic role.
Okay.
Lex Luthor.
Ah, yes.
You can't talk about Gene Hackman without picturing that wig reveal, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's an image that's burned into my brain.
Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of our time. I can just hear him saying it.
It's so good.
And even in a, comic book movie, he brought this amazing gravitas to the role.
He did, yeah. He could ground any character.
Makes you wonder if that's part of what made him so enduring, making even those larger-than-life characters believable.
Totally. He had that ability to ground even the most outlandish characters.
Yeah.
Make you feel like, okay, there's a real person under there, even if he is wearing a purple suit and trying to take over the world.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, he wasn't just tough guys and villains. He could do it all. Look at The Birdcage. That's a comedy.
Oh, yeah. Great movie.
And he's brilliant in it. Totally different from, like his more serious roles, but he just nails it.
He really did.
Yeah.
That really shows his range.
It does, yeah, it really does. And that range was recognized too, not just by audiences, but by the Academy.
Oh, for sure.
He won his second Oscar for Unforgiven over 20 years after his first one.
Wow, that is almost unheard of.
I know, right? It's amazing. It really speaks to his sustained excellence, his ability to stay relevant over decades.
Yeah, not a one-hit wonder. He was the real deal.
He was. And, something that's always fascinated me about Hackman is that in 2004, he just walked away from Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a fading away. It was a deliberate choice.
Right.
What do you think that says about him?
It suggests a real self-awareness, Like he knew when he had said what he wanted to say.
Yeah.
He wasn't chasing fame or trying to hold on, He had this amazing career, and he walked away on his own terms. That's real integrity.
It is. There's this quote from a CBS interview they did with him back in 2000 that really stuck with me. He said, "I feel that in some ways my efforts of being an actor are so instinctive and that I hadn't really maybe paid my dues." It's like, almost like he's downplaying his own incredible talent,
It's interesting, isn't it? You think someone at that level, 2 Oscars, countless iconic roles, they'd be like brimming with confidence, right?
No, I think so.
But there's a real vulnerability there.
Yeah.
A hint of self-doubt.
Almost like he can't believe it himself,
Yeah, and maybe that's part of what made him so relatable. Maybe it's that humility that allowed him to walk away so gracefully.
That's a really good point. So we've talked about his range, his persistence, his ability to make even the craziest characters believable. We've even touched on that hint of self-doubt that seemed to kind of follow him. What do you think, in the end, made Gene Hackman such a great actor?
It's funny, we started this whole deep dive kind of feeling the weight of this loss, But now I'm finding myself just in awe of everything he accomplished.
I know what you mean. It's really inspiring, isn't it? Going from those early struggles to becoming such a legend.
It really is. And it's a good reminder that, talent and hard work and maybe a little bit of luck, they can really take you places.
You gotta have that luck.
You do. And thinking back on his career, it makes me want to revisit some of these films. The Conversation, Mississippi Burning, heck, even Hoosiers.
Yeah.
So many great performances.
Oh, I know, right? You could spend weeks just exploring his filmography.
Seriously. And there's always something new to discover, even in the films you think you know really well, which I think is the sign of a truly great actor. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Their work just keeps resonating.
It does. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with something to think about. What's your favorite Gene Hackman role? And what is it about his performance, about him, that makes that character so memorable?
Ooh, that's a good one, yeah. It's a question worth pondering, for sure.
I think it might reveal something about ourselves, too,
Yeah.
About what we connect with in stories and in characters.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's that quiet intensity he always brought to his roles, or the way he could make you root for even the most flawed characters. Whatever it is, there's no denying it. Gene Hackman left his mark on cinema.
He did, yeah.
He'll be missed, but his work will live on and continue to entertain and inspire us for years to come.
To a life well lived.
Yeah.
And a legacy that'll endure.
Yeah. Perfectly said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those conversations going.